I know a little bit about you, about your journey into leadership, but can you tell us more about how you got started in your leadership journey?
So what I always find interesting is when I started in the IT world. So I was like the geek software development person. I did everything that you could do in the world of software development, project management, team leadership, coding, testing, architecture, the whole shebang. And I got tired of the technological wheel in which you can be when you're in the software development world. And I started looking for roles where I didn't have to have all that technical knowledge. I could leverage the knowledge I had, but I could also do something else. So all of a sudden, what I found is in the teams I was working with, I was becoming the big brother. So I was that guy that people would go see when things aren't working, when things aren't going well on the team. I was kind of the person people would come to and say, "What can I do?" And I'd help people work through things. So from there, I graduated to coaching. We'll talk about my coaching journey a little bit later, but for the coaching, I had different stages as well. I started working with teams, and now I work more with executive teams and leadership teams.
So would you say that you fell naturally into it in a way?
Surprisingly, yes. If I look at when I started doing some coaching and consulting, I started by coaching teams on the ground. And eventually what happened is I had a little bit of interaction with the leaders, with the management team. But one of my colleagues was their role, being more the organizational coach. And at one of our clients, what ended up happening is that the organizational coach left. And we were 4 people from the company I was working for at the time that were with that client, and then everyone turned to me. So it's like, Stephane,
what do you want to do? Do you want to do it?
Yeah, well, it wasn't even a do you want to do it? It was assumed that I would do it.
Oh, all right.
So it was kind of funny because at that time, I was very scared of difficult conversations with leaders, with people, because I was afraid if I shake someone a little bit too much, maybe we're going to lose business, right? And I didn't trust myself. The truth is, in all of this, I did not trust myself to have those conversations with leadership teams. So it was really convenient to me when I had my colleague that was more experienced, that he was the organizational coach, quote unquote, and it was his role to do it. It was very convenient for me. So did you have that conversation? You really need to have this conversation. And I just passed them all on to him. And so when that person left, everyone turned and said, "It's on you.
Yeah.
Go have those discussions."
So you had to step up in that moment.
I had to step up in that moment, and I had to learn to trust myself, and I needed to learn to see that I could do it, that I was able to manage it, that there was rarely a situation that happened that I could not manage, but I was terrified at the time.
Mm-hmm. And would you say that that's part of your leadership style? Or because I think some people naturally maybe have that bravado where they come into situations and they're like, I can do this, I'm a leader. But do you think that because you kind of had a bit of that self-doubt, do you think that it shaped your leadership style in those early stages?
It's interesting because in my early stages, before that moment that I'm talking to you about with the executive teams, even when I was a teenager, when I was on sports teams, I remember in high school, I often took the position with most visibility. So if we were playing hockey, I was the goalie. If we were playing football, I was the quarterback.
Okay.
And it was natural for me to step up in those things. And I always liked stepping up in those things. And I kind of learned to be in your face. I learned to push people, to drive people a lot. That was like the first iteration of me, like in my early 20s, even I'd say 20s and 30s. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the leadership model that I had.
So more the traditional leadership style of like, I'm the boss. I tell people what to do, or
not even I'm the boss.
Okay.
I'm the leader.
Yeah.
I'm the alpha.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.
So it wasn't even about having the boss sometimes, because I would do this when I was working with teams that I was working with. I would
Okay.
naturally gravitate towards the position where people would follow. And I didn't have to bully people to follow, people just followed.
Yeah. So going from that style of leadership that was maybe more into being, I don't want to say an authority. How should I say it? What's the
Well, a
word
bit
I
more
used?
directive.
Yeah, okay, directive. So going from that leadership style that was more directive, how would you say that your leadership has evolved? Your leadership style has evolved.
I have a much more collaborative leadership style now. I've had a lot of those leaders that were directive in front of me, and I realized even when I was doing it, that it was limiting me in how I was interacting with people. It wasn't creating what I wanted to create. To give you a concrete example, when I worked for a while in a methodology team, that was after I left the world of software development. And in software development, people that push, that go, 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 let's go, and in a cool way, in a nice way, without being rude or mean about it, people like to follow them.
Yeah.
Naturally, people want leaders.
Yeah. Yeah, people respond better, I think, to.
Yeah. But in this methodology team that I joined, all of a sudden, I like to joke that I started working with humans. So I started working with people with feelings that, I didn't have to, I never encountered quite that type of people
With
before.
feelings?
Well, in the IT world, it's not the same. So,
Sorry. Okay, excuse me.
so sometimes what would happen was that I would give feedback the same way I always gave feedback, but one of my colleagues would get offended. And now I went from being, good leader, great leadership skills, to being the bully, being the demanding guy, being the arrogant guy. And it kind of shocked me because it was so far away from my intention. And then I realized that, it's a little bit rough around the edges how you're doing what you're doing. You're not necessarily doing something bad, but it's rough around the edges. So I had to learn. That's the first time I really started questioning my own leadership and what I was creating, because I had that in front of me. And for me, it didn't make sense. So it was a learning. It was a painful year. It was. Just to give you an example, one story there. One of my colleagues in that team really didn't like when I gave her feedback on the work that she was doing. She thought, I was never happy. She thought I was never satisfied. And in the end, for me, I just wanted us to deliver the best work possible. So I wasn't saying you're doing bad work. That's how the person was hearing it. But it's not what I was saying. I was always saying, well, the next level of this is. But that person struggled hearing that. So I remember once we were doing a session where we were reviewing each other's work at the end of a few weeks. And I was reviewing her work and giving feedback, and she was having none of my feedback. She was upset. She was getting angry. And one of my colleagues was sitting across the table, and he was listening to what I was saying, and he found it made a lot of sense. So he started repeating pretty much exactly what I was saying, but it was his voice and not my voice. So then the same person was going, yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can do that. So when I noticed it, because I noticed it in the moment, I said, okay, I'm not going to pay attention to if she gets upset. I'm going to keep saying what I'm saying, and I'm going to keep hoping that my colleague is going to support me and help me. And that's when I really realized that it was just me. I was the problem in that moment. Because the same thing would come out of someone else's mouth, pretty much the same words. He didn't change much. But with him, it was okay. With me, it wasn't.
I find that really interesting how sometimes, even though you have good intentions, the end result with people might not be it might be something totally different than when you anticipated.
Yeah. And that happens often because we're humans, right? And you don't know the insecurities that person has, that person is experiencing in their day-to-day life. So if you're giving any sort of feedback, for them, it's criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be meant as criticism, but for them, it still is.
Mm.
So it's easy to say, well, that's not what I wanted to do, but you still need to adapt as a leader to that kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. And how did you find your way from being this natural leader in teams and organizations that you were working in to being a leadership coach now?
That's interesting. You would have told me uh, 12 years, well, no, 15 years ago, you would have told me that I'm doing what I'm doing now. I probably would still be laughing.
Oh, yeah.
I would
Okay.
not have believed it. It was kind of a natural evolution. And a lot of things happened in my life that were kind of wake-up calls as to how I was behaving. There was some stuff with colleagues and how I was being, my colleagues were experiencing me. But I also had some stuff going on at home. So sometimes I wasn't as patient as I could be with my kids. Sometimes I'd be loud with my kids. And I knew I was hurting them, but I didn't know any better because that's what I experienced with my dad.
Mm.
And as much as I said, I'm not going to repeat the pattern, I repeated the pattern.
Yeah.
So it was kind of tough to go through that. So I had the work stuff, then I had the home stuff. And then it's like, the common thread in all this is you. So what are you going to do about it? So when I was coaching at first, I used to be what I like to call the rah-rah coach. Get on my back, we'll get to where we're trying to go, and I'll carry. But I was not creating sustainability. I wasn't creating something where when I left, people could keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
They just couldn't.
Yeah, because you were doing it in part for them instead of empowering them.
And they were following my power, my drive.
Yeah.
So for some people, it was very empowering. It was fun. They grew. They had fun. They enjoyed it. For other people, they used to think I was a little bit cold.
Oh, okay.
Because when they'd ask something, I'd go, well, Marilyn, what's the value in what you just said? Okay, so that's a natural laugh. But for me, it was black and white.
Yeah.
You're contributing something
Or you're not.
or you're not. So, some people would look at me and go, oh my God, but you're barely human.
You just put me on the spot here. Like,
Yeah.
You're just insinuating what I said is not worth anything.
Well,
It's so funny.
yes. And I didn't see it like that. And that was the important thing. I love your reaction, by the way.
I'm like, that's so intense to say that to someone.
But I'd say it with the softest and kindest voice.
Yeah.
You know me.
Yeah.
But for me, I just didn't realize that I just hit them with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
So, I started saying, okay, well, when I was a teenager, I had this empathy thing going. I had these emotion things going. And I had spent 20 years of my life squishing those down. Mm. Because I was the achiever. I was the guy that did shit. I was the guy that made things happen. And emotions, well, they got in the way.
Yeah.
So let's move those out of the way.
Yeah. So you're like, just let's be efficient and
let's get it done.
Yeah.
And that short-circuited me again. Like, as much as my colleagues and the methodology team threw me off, this threw me off. Yeah. And then again, it was another cycle of, but this isn't working. Mm-hmm. So now how do you adapt? Mm. So I could have blamed other people, but at the time I was well surrounded. I was surrounded by people that would tell me the stuff I didn't want to hear. And they do it with a lot of love and kindness. And even though sometimes what I heard was not necessarily fun, but it pushed me to learn.
Mm. Well, it's great that you got that awareness, because I think a lot of people go through almost their whole life without getting those wake-up calls of like, oh, maybe I'm missing something here, Yeah.
So to round out the journey, at that point, the funny thing in my life is, and the great thing about the situation was, the company I worked for at the time was sponsoring us to go in a 1-year coaching program. And it was an expensive thing. But they were investing in their employees. And at first, I didn't want to do it. But then, when I started opening up my emotional side a little bit more, I started a bit losing control of my emotions when I'd go to my clients. When I told you that I needed to tap into that softer side of me, the way I used to do it was I'd go to my clients, and it's as if I let the genie out of the bottle, and I said, come, do your magic with me. Let these emotions out, let the empathy out, be kind, do all of that, and let that part of you out. And when I'd leave and I'd go back, I was in the metro, I swear I would talk to myself in this way. I'd say, okay, great job today. You can go back in the bottle now. We're good. And one day I said that, and it looked at me and it said, oh, hell no. I'm not going back in there. And I had let so much of that out that it just wouldn't fit back in. So I was like distraught. Like for 6 months, I was going to clients and I was being very empathetic with people. And then I'd be crying for no reason. And I couldn't shut it off. And I'd be in meetings with certain people in one-on-ones, and I'd empathize with them, and I would start crying for absolutely no reason.
Wow.
And then I said, I'm broken. I need to be fixed. So, this coaching program? I think I'm going to go do that. So I went to do that. And I think the great irony of that program is when I came in, I said, I'm broken. Someone please fix me. And after about 6 months, I said, I am not broken. Why the heck are you trying to fix me? Because I realized that I needed to kind of bring both sides of me together.
Yeah, so it was more about finding the balance.
Finding the balance, giving space.
Yeah. Would you say that was the hardest part of your leadership journey? What was the most difficult part or the most challenging part for you?
It was learning to be with all that emotional side. It was really hard because I was fighting multiple things at once. I remember when I was in that coaching program, big achiever energy, push, drive to do things, and people would feel that energy, and they were trying to slow me down with the exercises that they were giving me, the coaching they were giving me. And I remember vividly, because it scared the bejesus out of me. They would slow me down by asking me, spend 20 minutes a day listening to classical music.
Okay.
Okay. Do some yin yoga.
Oh, all right.
Do some meditation. But all of that created silence. And the silence was being filled by all the stuff I was trying to repress. So it was at one point I'd get panic attacks because something was rushing up and I had no clue what it was. And I felt it took me 3 months to stop running away from it. And when I stopped, one day I said, okay, this can't be bad. What is this? And when it rushed up, I just stopped. And I must have cried for like half an hour because a lot of stuff that was just buried came right back up. And after that, I learned that when that happens, you stop and you say welcome and you say thank you. Those are the things you say in those moments. But it was tough when you're not used to that.
Yeah.
For some people, emotions are natural. For me at the time, everything was so repressed that it was like, when you turn on a radio and the volume is much louder than what you expect? That was my emotions.
So it's like startling you, like, bam!
Yeah. And the second piece that was hard was learning to balance the two parts of me. Because there was a part of me, I'm used to being an achiever. I'm used to driving. I'm used to pushing hard. I'm used to suppressing all this. What do you mean I need to leave space for this side now?
So would you say that, so the two sides, can you just reiterate what the two sides are?
So one side was the achiever. We get things done. Emotions suck. We don't need emotions. Leave us alone. And the other side was trying to emerge and was trying to say, but you need me too. And, you need the empathy. You need to feel your emotions. You need to feel the things that you need to feel. And it was the dance between the two because the achiever was afraid that this side would just take over and this side wouldn't exist. And the emotional side was trying to get out, and that side was fighting because the achiever side is big, is strong, and is powerful. And it's like, but are you going to give me space to breathe and live? So it took a while to find the balance.
So would you say that you have achieved that balance now as a coach,
I
as a
have
leadership coach?
I have a much better balance. I have a much better balance than I used to have. It's not
Do you
perfect.
want to?
No, I'm good.
You're good. Okay.
Yeah. I have a much better balance than what I used to have. It's not perfect. There's still moments that the achiever side, the achiever side is me in flow, basically. So, but you learn to kind of bounce off each other and you learn to use the strengths of one with the other. And now it's more of an and than an or.
Very good.
Now I'll do this.
Okay.
No,
Do you need a minute? Are you
I'm
good?
good.
Okay.
C'est parce que ça, c'est des côtés de moi que je parle pas beaucoup.
Okay. That's because I've heard you speak about it. So
Yeah, no, you've heard,
so
you've heard
I have
me
the
talk
impression
about it.
that you're like always like super
No, mais c'est parce
into
que,
your emotions.
no, that side of me in public is the side that I don't always talk about. I don't always talk
Okay.
about this on stage
Okay.
because I don't know how I'm going to react on stage if I do.
Okay.
But I'm okay with it, and at the same time, I'm kind of I'm as anyone else, I can get uncomfortable with it
Yeah.
because I don't know up to where it's going to push me. But it's all good.
Yeah. Okay.